When you think of a Lamborghini Countach, you probably imagine the 80s winged wedge I used in the thumbnail, or something similar at least. But the Countach was more than a toy for the intoxicated of America's coasts. Keen to create a worthy successor to the illustrious Miura, Ferruccio Lamborghini started work on something entirely new in the early 1970s. This is the story of the Lamborghini Countach. Lamborghini was in a good place in 1970. The Miura had been released in 1966 and had achieved widespread acclaim not only for its stunning beauty, but also for its innovative design layout. It could be argued that the Miura was in fact the first modern supercar, boasting a powerful V12 that was mid-mounted and mounted transversely, an idea they had borrowed from Alec Issigonis' world-changing Morris Mini. Success, however, can be a cruel thing, because by 1970 the pressure was on to deliver something new, something fresh, and something worthy of the same badge worn by the Miura. Back when the Miura was being developed, the team behind the car had kept it a secret. Ferruccio himself was much more interested in comfortable GT cars, and didn't really feel his company should be making anything else. The Miura had blurred the lines just enough to get his approval, and its commercial success had convinced him that flexibility could be profitable. And so when it came time to replace the Miura, Mr. Lamborghini accepted that a truer sports car was the right direction. Paolo Stanzani and Ferruccio Lamborghini put their heads together and laid out what a successor to the Miura must achieve. They decided it needed to be fast, aerodynamic, and aesthetically daring. These were the principles that had guided the development of the Miura, and nobody could argue with results like that. The project was named LP112, and it moved fast. The team worked quickly on the fundamentals of the car, solving key issues with the Miura that simply couldn't be ignored. Among them being cooling, a problem that had plagued the Miura given its unorthodox engine placement at the time, high-speed stability, and ease of maintenance. Much of this was achieved by ditching the Miura's innovative transverse engine layout in favour of a longitudinal layout, while keeping the engine in the middle, which at the time was a first for a road-going V12 car. While this work was going on, the great Marcello Gandini of Bertoni was quickly hired to design the body for the car. Having designed the Miura previously, I think it's safe to say Lamborghini liked him. Gandini had been experimenting with more angular wedge-shaped designs in the late 1960s, a great example of which is the Lancia Stratos Zero concept, which can relatively safely be described as a design precursor to the Countach. Project LP112 quickly materialised into a real car, and as early as 1971 they had built a concept car. At the Geneva Motor Show in 1971, it was unveiled to the public as the Lamborghini Countach LP500. I wish I could have been there to see the looks on their faces. Over the following 3 years, Lamborghini took their time making sure the Countach was perfect before delivering it to customers. Perhaps they had learned from their previous mistakes. And so, in 1974, the first production Countaches were being built. An interesting side note here is that, believe it or not, the Countach was the first proper production road car to be delivered with scissor doors, making it yet even more exotically iconic than it already was. The first generation of production Countaches were designated LP400. These were beautiful, elegant, but still not to be messed with by any means. The otherworldliness of Gandini's design was more apparent on these early cars than in any later iteration, in my opinion at least, and the result is simply magnificent. The Countach was built around a Formula 1 inspired steel partial space frame, which when all said and done made the car very stiff and very strong. While not being too heavy, the chassis only weighed 15 kilograms more than the Miura's chassis. As I mentioned earlier, they ditched the transverse V12 layout in favour of mounting the engine longitudinally. The LP400 boasted the same 3.9 litre V12 unit that was found in the Miura, producing around 370 brake horsepower, mounted to a 5-speed manual gearbox and driving the rear wheels. While the design had been made slightly more aggressive than the concept by the inclusion of necessary cooling ducts, the LP400 was still very neat, and would be the sleekest of any Countach model. In 1978, after having produced 148 LP400s, Lamborghini introduced the LP400S. The engine was kept the same, but the power output was reduced to just 350 brake horsepower over reliability concerns. At the same time, the wheels were changed, opting for the incredibly wide rear wheels that saw the famous wheel arch extensions added to accommodate this new width. The iconic V-shaped wing was also available for the first time on the LP400S, and despite lowering the top speed of the vehicle by at least 10 miles per hour, most buyers did in fact choose this option, and frankly, fair enough. 237 LP400S cars were produced in its 4-year production life, giving way in 1982 to the LP500S. The Countach LP500S gave the car some real power at long last, replacing the 1960s designed 3.9-litre V12 with a 4.8-litre monster worthy of the 80s. This new engine, however, only produced an additional 5 brake horsepower for a total power output of 375. After 3 years and 321 built, Lamborghini refreshed the Countach yet again in 1985 with the LP5000 Quattro Valvole, boasting a now 5.2-litre V12 with, as you may have derived from the name, 4 valves per cylinder. This new engine gave the car 449 brake horsepower, although 66 of the 610 cars produced were built with a fuel injection system instead of the carburetors for the US market, lowering the power output to just 414 brake horsepower. In 1988, Lamborghini celebrated its 25th anniversary, and to celebrate, Horatio Pagani, yes, that one, was commissioned to redesign the Countach for its final generation. The 25th anniversary car was very similar to the LP5000 QV mechanically, but featured some significant aesthetic changes to modernise it a bit because by this time the Countach had been unveiled 17 years prior. The 25th anniversary car was built through 1990 before being replaced by the Diablo, and my maths would suggest that around 670 cars were produced. But for one reason or another there seems to be some debate around the actual number produced. If I'm right, it would make the 25th anniversary car the most common of all the Countach models, but not by much. For another fascinating supercar story, I highly recommend checking out this video about the incredible, if slightly compromised, Jaguar XJ220. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thank you for watching.